From Studio 226 in Orlando, Florida, this is Aging Smarter. Aging Smarter is a podcast focused on making it easier to grow older and to prepare for the future at any age. We aim to educate, entertain, prepare, and amaze you about your life's journey, regardless of your age. I'm your host, retired and former circuit judge Jose R. Rodriguez. Today, we have invited to join us Cathy Lieblich. She is the board president of the Neighbors Network. She's here to tell us about her group, a group of friends who, along with her, run an amazing concept in aging smarter. That is, together, in place, and at home. Welcome, Cathy.
Thank you, Jose.
Before you tell us about yourself, let me begin with an old saying that I think encapsulates the philosophy of your group. Home is where the heart is. So tell us a little bit about yourself and hopefully a lot about your group.
Sure. Thanks so much for having me. So, I retired 2 years ago after 42 years in the field of aging and social work.
Wow.
So,
Oh, so you come with built in experience.
yes, yes. And in fact, I used to work at Senior Resource Alliance, where at your last podcast, you had Carla Radka. She was not the CEO at the time. This was quite a while ago, but she's absolutely wonderful. Uh, I um, so I retired and uh, my passion was always older adults, of course, and now I'm there,
Yes.
right? When I started, I was in my 20s.
Yes.
So I had a mentor, a friend, a colleague named Annette Kelly. I still have, who had gone to a American Society on Aging conference and heard from a group called Beacon Hill Village.
Uh-huh.
Beacon Hill is in Boston. And how that got started was a group of older adults who said, we have to take care of each other as we age, that it needs to be neighbors helping neighbors.
Sure,
So
you
that,
know everybody, or you know people from, again, there's no threat. Everybody comes with a story and you know who they are.
yeah, and you know them or you meet them, new people. And the model that they developed, Neighbors Helping Neighbors, was that volunteers would provide the services. So it could be your neighbor next door, it could be someone a little ways away from where you live.
And what kind of services are we
So
talking
the
about?
services include it's everything to keep someone, hopefully, if that's what they'd like, live, to continue living in their own home. Like you said, home is where the heart is, and that's what most people want to do. But what we provide is short of home care, and home care is another resource. And services through Senior Resource Alliance or other types of resources people can have to help them
So
stay at
people are
home.
pretty much able to be relatively independent.
Yes, but they may need some help with household tasks. We do our and it's all volunteers. So volunteers do things like various household tasks, like even something like changing light bulbs that
Okay.
are on the ceiling or the smoke detector in the smoke alarm. Um, it could be moving some light furniture. It could be putting up some pictures or things like that that they might need. It could be minor repairs like the latch on a door that's not working anymore, and so we have handy men who or women who will fix that latch. If the handy people have something that requires supplies that costs money, they do have the member pay for the supplies, but the labor is completely free from the
That
volunteers.
is awesome.
And then other things that people do in the home for them can be things like changing the linens once a week or doing the laundry once a week.
Right, because that
Typically
can be
not.
pretty
It
stress
can be,
producing.
yeah. We even have mattress flippers. When people, so I understand there are mattresses now you don't have to flip. My mattress, we still have to flip, and it's not easy. So,
No, that's heavy.
so
It's
some
heavy duty.
we have volunteers that'll help with that. We have a volunteer who collects papers that the person wants to have shredded
I see.
and picks them up and brings them a couple of times a year, brings them to a shredding company to get all that shredded so they feel safe and comfortable that they're not papers in the home that somebody could see,
Exactly.
that could be
With very
confidential.
confidential and private information.
Right. And then also, there's help with organizing and decluttering. Also, sometimes people need that, or someone who has vision issues who needs somebody to help them with reading the mail and deciding what's junk and what they have to deal with. So it's many different
It's
things.
hoarding prevention, I
There's
guess.
that too for the decluttering, yes. But also just people who just have not had the time or inclination because they have so much stuff and they're not necessarily hoarders, but they just have not gotten rid of
It
stuff
takes time.
over the
It takes
years. It
time to get
takes
rid of
time
what
and
we accumulate.
decision making about what you should throw
So
away or give
is
away.
what's happening is that without necessarily of a legal agreement, what's going on is that there is, in fact, supported decision making. Because again, you've got individuals that are helping someone who needs the help make those decisions. That's
Yes.
awesome.
So the person makes the decisions, but the volunteer will ask questions. When's the last time you used that? And what do you think you'll use it in the future to do or for? And if
Props.
they don't know, or they're going, I don't think I'll use it, then the volunteer says, well, this is something we can put in this pile for you to either give away or throw away.
When did Neighbors Network start here?
We started 11 years ago.
It's been that
It's
long.
been around
Well,
a long time.
we cannot keep it a secret any longer. We've got to break it out
That's
even
why I'm
more.
very happy that you invited me to be here. That's one of our biggest things is getting the word out because we're like the best kept secret.
And you know what? The thing about aging at home, that is something that everybody wants to, if they can,
If they can, right.
you know? And I think what you're doing is you're really facilitating it. So how long? 11 years.
So yeah, around 11 years, I had mentioned to you about my colleague Annette Kelly
Right.
wanting to start one. So she came to people she knew. I was a colleague at the time. I was working at the Winter Park Health Foundation, and she was
Oh, yeah.
the executive director of the Alzheimer's Association of Central and North Florida. And she came to me and some other colleagues and said, I want to, and these Beacon Hill Village, so they named these villages. So she said, I want to start a village in this area. Would you help me? So a group of us got together, and Annette was able to also get funding from the Winter Park Health Foundation for a feasibility study, and then a grant that we had for 3 years to start us up. And the other thing I wanted to mention is addition to the household tasks and things like errands, we have rides to
Of
wherever a
course.
person wants to go, with volunteers providing the rides in their own cars. And we have to limit that a little bit because it's the most requested service,
Sure.
as you can imagine.
Hey, going shopping, it can be fun.
Yes. And, when people go, they go to hair salons, they'll go to visit a friend. It's not a lot of the transportation programs are for medical
Medical
appointments
appointments.
or something like that, or some kind of healthcare related thing. And this is not. This is what does the person want to do? It's very what we call sort of person centered. It's what, it's the person is they're s- s- they're still in control of their life. They're the ones that decide, do they want to join Neighbors Network? Now, we do have a fee for the membership, but we also, thanks to some Rotary clubs, some women's clubs, the Winter Park Health Foundation, we have funding from them to be able to cover membership for anyone who's not able to pay the membership fee.
It's you have really thought this through. I mean,
Yeah.
the details, uh, phenomenal. Uh, There are some dues, as you mentioned. What about how do you go about volunteer recruitment?
Oh, yes. So it is getting the word out like this, a lot of it. It's talking about who we are and what we do, and that we're always looking for volunteers. the volunteer opportunities that we have are very flexible. So I'll tell you how that works. Let's say, and how you volunteer is you go to our website, there's a volunteers section, there's a volunteer application,
Okay.
and then they fill it out, and on it are various things that our volunteers do, and they check off.
Which they can,
Either it could be one or it could be
or
more.
what they commit to doing.
Or there may be also, it also asks, is there something that you could do for someone that's not on this list?
I see.
So there's that.
I see.
And then what happens is how a member gets services is they will call. So let's say they're calling for a ride and you have signed up to do rides. And we vet our volunteers. We have background checks with rides. We have vehicle driver's license checks, the history,
Right,
um,
right,
uh,
right.
in-
Because you don't want necessarily
bad
somebody who is
drivers.
not. Hmm.
Right. So
And
there's a vetting process.
the important thing too is that what you are doing by enlisting those volunteers to drive is you are giving autonomy to individuals who may have already given up their car. And it's
Mhm.
not an easy thing to give up your car because
No.
that is mobility, that is freedom, that is autonomy, and you're giving it back. That's priceless.
Yes, and there are people who take advantage of the rides because, they're only driving within a small part of their neighborhood or area, and some of their doctor's appointments and things are further away, or they're just not comfortable driving, and some just aren't driving anymore. In fact, I have, a story about
Aha.
a member who wasn't driving anymore, and she took great advantage of our rides, and she just loved it. But she still had her car in her driveway, and it had been a couple of years since she had been driving, but she still had her car. She wanted to sell it, and she didn't know how to go about doing it. So, one of our volunteers, she told our volunteer coordinator, and one of our volunteers volunteered to help her sell the car. And what she used and explained to the woman about it was Carvana.
Oh,
Okay,
yes,
right?
yes, yes, yes.
So, because it makes it easy.
Sure.
I don't know if you get the best price or not, but it's easy.
That's not the point. The
Right.
point is, again, getting done what needs to be done.
So the volunteer did the Carvana thing for her because I think you have to do it like online and all
Right.
of that. And our member was not really using the internet that much. So the volunteer arranged for the car to be sold, got a price that the member agreed to, and the car was sold. So that was a way of helping that we never
Yeah.
thought one
Yes.
of our volunteers would be doing,
Yes.
which is why I said sometimes a member may need something that isn't on our list. But
Extraordinary.
if we have someone who can do it, and then the really incredible thing about this was that the member then in turn, when she got the check for Carvana, donated it to Neighbors Network because she was so appreciative of the
Sure.
services that she
You know what? I can
received.
totally
So
understand.
that was
So,
nice.
I went on your website and I noticed that you have also some social events
Yes.
because one of the things that read and that I see and understand, uh, I have a mother-in-law that's 104 years
Oh,
old.
wow.
And one
Wow.
of the things that I realize that all of them need all the really, I mean, I'm in my 70s.
Yeah, I'm in my
So
late 60s,
when
so yeah.
when I
But
talk
now
about
it's different from
aging,
80s and 90s and 100s.
exactly. But one of the things that I see is the need for social events. My mother-in-law plays bingo
Mhm.
and she draws. She is drawing
Mm.
art. We found out at 97 that she could draw and she
Wow.
enjoys it. But the thing about it is that I also saw that your neighbors network gathers the members together to do social events.
Yes.
Tell us about some of
Yes.
those.
So we offer them to our members. Not all of our members take advantage of that.
I mean, yeah, you're not gonna go ahead
Can't
and
force
drag them
anybody. No,
exactly.
no, no.
That's part of autonomy, independence, and dignity for them to
Yeah.
choose,
Oh,
but that you
absolutely.
make it available.
We make it available. We encourage it because when people participate in those activities, they're more socially connected with other people. They're often connected with people with similar interests. So give you example, if I think about your mother-in-law, we have one group that's a creative arts group. And what happens is it's actually at a member's home. One of our members offered her home to host it. And then we always have a volunteer that's there to help her if she needs it and to be with the people that are there. And so people bring whatever art they're doing.
Wow.
It could be needlework, it could be painting, it could be whatever it is. Some do adult
Crafts.
coloring, coloring their
Mhm.
adult coloring books and things like that. And so people love that. But the most important thing is the friendships that they're
And it gives
making.
them an opportunity to discuss
Yes.
things that might be on their mind. And
And
yeah,
similar interests. We have a Scrabble group that also
wow.
meets at a member's home. We have we have book clubs and just various things that people can participate in. Now, when they do, full they get the full membership really, and the full value of the
Yes.
membership. But some people have never been, activities people or people to get together in a group, and that's fine, and we respect that.
Yeah, well, the whole idea is that you provide what someone wants, and what they don't want, they don't have to take.
That's right.
It's again, it's a matter of choice, but the important thing is that you do provide those choices for those who want to. I mean, social isolation may lead to depression, and it's
Yes.
just not something that you know that you want to enable or engage. You want to see if you can break that.
Right, and the other thing, just to mention, that there's also the connection that happens between this is not an activity per se, but someone's asked for a ride. Someone's asked for someone to come to their home to do something for them, and they talk, it's not just they just come do it. They talk, and they get to know each other a little bit, and that's too is a
A
social
social
connection.
yes.
So, and what the feedback that we've gotten from our members and our volunteers is the members love the volunteers and the volunteers love the
You know
members.
what? Even though they volunteer, they are getting something.
They are.
They
Yes,
are.
we
If
we
nothing,
are.
it's you cannot put a price on the feel good.
Yes.
And I think you all have perfected the art of doing feel good deeds for your neighbor. So tell me, how do you go about recruiting?
Yeah, so we do this, we
Right.
speak at Rotaries and women's clubs, and we try to get into faith communities too to speak, churches and synagogues and mosques, to talk about who we are, or we talk to clergy about it so that if they know someone in their congregation who could use the services, then they do. Then so our recruitment is not only recruiting
But it's
volunteers,
most word of mouth and
and word of mouth is the biggest. Absolutely, you're right. Thank you for mentioning that. We have volunteers that tell everyone about it. We have members who tell their friends and other people about it. That's the best recruitment
because
method we
yeah,
can use.
yeah, and if nothing else, it's reliable and it's somebody coming from somebody you trust.
That's right.
So, and that's it.
That's
Um, the areas that you cover, would you expand? Would you be able to
So
expand?
right now we're in 9 zip codes, if I can talk about what those are.
Yes,
And that's for the members. Volunteers can live anywhere, but typically they live near, not far,
near each other.
because that way they don't have to drive far to go to a person's home or to drive them places, right? So we started with Winter Park, Maitland, and Eatonville because, as I mentioned before, the Winter Park Health Foundation funded us
Funded it.
initially,
Yes.
and those are their three
There
focus
areas.
areas and still are. So those are 32751 and 32789 and 32792. Then there's College Park, which is 32804, Orlando north of Colonial, which is 32803, Baldwin Park, which is 32814, Fern Park, which is 32730. So then now we're getting
That's into
into Seminole
Seminole,
County. 32707, which is
Castleberry.
Castleberry, and then 430 Altamont Springs, 32701, just below 436. So, in terms of expanding, which we would like to do, we need a few things to happen. One is we have to really cover this service area in terms of getting the word out, in terms of recruiting members and volunteers. And once we feel we've sufficiently covered this area,
Then you can.
then we would expand. Now, the other thing is to expand, we need members, potential members who would live in that area because we have expanded, the first three.
Right,
Yeah. And we need volunteers.
right. So it seems to me that West Orange would be a ripe area.
Funny you should mention that. The Foundation for a Healthy West Orange
Uh-huh.
is planning to start some villages there. And I'm so thrilled. And we have a really nice relationship with them. The villages, it will have a name. This new entity will have a name, and it'll have two pilot villages to start with. So it's
Excellent.
great you mentioned West Orange. They're going to love that.
Well, they are growing by leaps and bounds
Yes.
as a city and as Ocoee, West Orange,
Yes. Their
and
garden.
it's in a
Yeah.
garden, and it just makes good common sense, particularly to continue with the aging at home, aging in place.
Yes.
That is awesome.
And we're thrilled because until now we were the only village in our area, and there are only four in the whole state of Florida.
Really, where are the
Yeah.
others?
Let's see, there's one in Lee County,
Okay.
there's one in Tallahassee, that's Leon County. There's one down in it's like Wellington area.
Yeah.
Um, and actually there's five because Celebration has its own
Is there anything in South
for
Florida?
Celebration. The furthest south is the Wellington one,
See, it seems to me that South Florida would be, I mean,
right?
because of the density that you have of individuals and the age. Another one would be somewhere out in the Gulf, well, the Gulf Coast,
Yeah. Right. There
Sarasota.
were some efforts to do Sarasota, to a village there that had not gotten off the ground. So unfortunately, but hopefully in the future. In fact, I think I heard recently that there's one that they're talking about starting there. Um, Interesting, just to contrast Florida with only five of us. And we're not connected in terms of we're our own 501(c)(3)
And
organization.
again, demographically or geographically, you seem to be farthest apart from one another. I
Yes.
mean, if
When West
West
Orange
Orange
happens,
comes,
yes.
that'll change.
That will change.
That'll
And then
change.
hopefully we can expand here too. Or others may want to start a village. And we're always happy to help
Sure.
somebody who's interested in starting a village. In fact, I'm also on the board of an organization called Uplift Florida Network. And our goal is to increase the number of villages in
Oh,
Florida
wow.
and to support the existing ones.
Well,
So,
if there's anything that aging smarter can do, I think it's definitely something that it's all about aging smarter.
and just to contrast Florida, I said five in Florida,
Uh-huh. Yes.
Washington, D.C. alone,
Oh no, scare me now.
13
Wait,
villages.
we got a long
Yeah,
way to catch up,
yeah.
don't we?
Now, part of that is that DC government funds some of that,
Sure,
and none of us have funding from
sure,
government yet.
sure.
Hopefully, in the
And
future.
maybe we don't want funding from government. We want folks to go out there and give their best, give their not only by volunteering, but also the green stuff, the
Yeah,
lettuce.
yes, the
You know,
lettuce is so important. We have an annual appeal every year, and how we do that is each of our board members, we have 12, are asked to make a list of all of their contacts that they would send an appeal letter to. And then they send it to their contacts. And that's been great because the person they're sending it to knows them. And sometimes they're just donating because that's the person that they
exactly,
know that
exactly. They trust,
they trust.
and
They
that they
know
know
and
that the money is
trust.
going to be spent well,
That's right.
and they know how it's going to be spent,
Yeah.
and that it's going to be nothing but bringing people up and keeping them at home, and as well as making sure that they're taken care of. So we want to thank you for joining us, Cathy. And we hope that the future is as bright for you as well as for the neighborhood network, the Neighbors Network. Uh, I hope that I have done what we can to help get the word out about Neighbors Network. Uh, to the folks that are watching and listening, it's time for me to remind you to like and subscribe to this channel. You also need to know that you can reach this channel or reach these episodes by going on the website of the Senior Resource Alliance. Join us once again during our next episode of Aging Smarter from Studio 226 in Orlando, Florida. Thank you very much, Cathy.
Thank you, Jose.